Welcome back, guys. It's Javier. Today, we're going to talk about classroom management in your EPIK classes. And I'm making this video because I watched another YouTuber by the name of Daevin. He has a video called A Guide to Classroom Management, and I think his video is amazing. So go check that one out. That's a very good resource. And then you guys can come back here and then I'll build on top of what he was already saying. My biggest tip for classroom management is lesson planning. As I mentioned in my last video, lesson planning is the most important thing that you can do for your teaching. So when you walk into that classroom, you got confidence because you've already thought about those ideas. You know how one thing is going to flow into another thing. You know how the class is slowly going to build up in intensity, and you know how you're going to transition between those activities. You don't want any delays, because I'm telling you, 90% of the problems that you're going to have is when you're here, boom, boom, you look away, and then that's when the chaos starts, right? Now, let's say you have the perfect plan, right? But you got to go into the room, you got to execute that plan. Now, you need to know this. This is important information. The first few weeks of class, you need to establish the rule that when you speak, the students can't speak. If you do this in the beginning, you're not going to have any problems for the rest of the year. But if you allow them to do that, they're going to continue doing it for the rest of the year. So just cut it right at the beginning of the year, okay? When it comes to rules, less rules is better because they're able to actually remember the rules. And don't make any rules that you can't enforce. So in my classroom, I only have one rule, and it's broken down into 3 parts, which is when I speak, you don't speak. When you speak, I don't speak. When X speaks, Y doesn't speak. This is amazing because it's not me imposing my power on them. It's a mutual respect that they have, and it feels very fair. Also, it's really easy to enforce. When I'm speaking, if another student speaks, I ask them, hey, when I speak, do you speak? And they say no, and that's really the end of the problem. Oh, a major advantage to having a good lesson plan is, you know, this activity is going to take 10 minutes, this activity is going to take 5 minutes, this activity is going to take X amount of time. So I always have a visual timer on the blackboard or on your TV or on your projector, so they know I have 5 minutes to do this. So when I say, okay, let's start this activity, they know I got 5 minutes, I got to hurry up, because if not, they're just going to think, oh, I have the rest of the time to do this, I have all class. So you tell them, hey, let's go, and then first thing they do, they start looking at this friend, they start looking at this friend, now they're talking. 10 minutes goes by, they haven't even done anything, right? So you got to let them know, hey, you guys only have this amount, and then we're moving on. The timer that I like is I go to Google and I put in online candle timer. And on this website, there's many different types of timers, but the one that I recommend is the candle timer, because when it goes off at the end, it makes a little twinkle noise. There's some other timers on here. They got the bomb timer, the dynamite timer, but these are very disruptive. They got their place too, right? If you're gonna have a game where you want a bomb going off, then that would be a perfect place to put it. But I don't want anything too disruptive. They've started to associate that little twinkle with this is the end. So as soon as they hear it, they don't even have to look at the timer. They already know what that means. Building relationships. When you go into that class, you have a relationship with that class. So that means you know the students' names. You have some jokes with each one of them. You know what the hierarchy in that classroom is, because you're going to have your lower level students, you're going to have your upper level students, you're going to have your class clown, you're going to have the student that everybody looks up to. So you have to be able to identify those students, and with your relationships with those students, especially the ones that are the guys that everybody looks up to, if you have a really good relationship with that student will actually help manage the class for you. You could have the best lesson plan that anybody's ever seen, right? You could have prepared everything, and then you're still going to have problems. So you got to know this. You cannot yell at the students, because the problem with yelling is that once you've done it, that's the ceiling of your authority. So there's nowhere up that you can go from there. The most that you can do is yell at them. So you don't really want to burn that tool unless it's absolutely necessary. There are times when you're going to have to yell, and those times are very few. I can count on one hand how many times I've yelled at my students among my almost 10 years of experience. Is you have different levels. So a simple level 1, somebody's been a little disruptive, you just give them a firm look. Number 2, you give them the firm look, you say stop. And then level 3, you can keep building on from there. One thing that I like to do is, instead of yelling, I like to invert that, and I like to turn it into a whisper. And this is very, 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 very strong. If a student is being disruptive, you go up to them, put your mean face on, and you whisper in their ear what they need to hear. And what's great about this is that nobody knows what it is that you told that student, and so everybody becomes very scared. And this will get you a lot of respect with that student, also because you didn't yell at them, right? You had a very controlled reaction with him. You had a very controlled kind of conversation with him, but they know what time it is. If you have to yell, then you're going to yell at that student, and then you're going to turn around and just carry on like nothing happened. What this is showing the rest of the class is that you reprimanded that student because you had to. As a teacher, it was your duty to do that, but not because you lost control, not because you were angry, not because you were all flustered. It was, hey, this is my responsibility as a teacher. I have to let you know that what you're doing is wrong, and then just continue on with the class like nothing happened. Most disruptions are going to come from the students that are struggling. So in the last video, I talked about a concept called variance. If you haven't checked that video, go check it out. I'll leave it on the description. If you have a high variance room where you have a lot of lower level students, a lot of higher level students, these lower level students are going to get bored. They're not going to be able to keep up with the class. So throughout the year, what I like to do is I like to make classes that are going to challenge both the lower level and the higher level. They're going to challenge the higher level because these guys up here, they're going to have gaps in their information. They're not going to know everything about this. And these guys, it's going to be very useful for them. So things like phonics, things like Korean romanization, things like numbers, these are skills that the higher level students, they have a little bit of gaps in their information, and it's going to really bring these students up so that then they can start participating, and then that'll encourage them to participate in your other classes as well. Let's go back to the lesson plan. And when I make that lesson plan, I try not to block out a long period of time where I'm going to be the one that's only doing the speaking. It's mostly me doing the speaking for a very short amount of time, and then I let them actually do the activity. So they allow me to get through that explanation very quickly. It means that they increase the amount of time that they have to do for the activity. So it's actually incentivizing them to be quiet when I need them to be quiet. Because I know that listening to a foreign language for 1 hour or 45 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever it is, that's very exhausting, right? So you want to kind of limit the amount of time that they have to do that, and then maximize the amount of time that they get to actually use the language. I hope that these tips helped you out. If they did, give me a comment, give me a like, give me a subscription, and I'll see you on the next one.